Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to another CCS Alumni Live. My name is Brandy Keeler. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at CCS, and I'm really excited to host another Alumni Live. So, if you haven't seen an Alumni Live before, this is essentially a conversation live with a graduate from CCS sharing their journey from high school through where they are in their career today. And I'm really excited for today's guest, Kassandra Heller. So I'm going to introduce our guest and then I'm going to add her into the live. So Kassandra Heller majored in illustration and graduated from CCS in 2010. Her illustration skills have allowed her to do a lot of different things in her career since leaving CCS. She's done everything from comic book art to backgrounds for animated shows to illustrate art that's been exhibited in galleries and shows. She's worked for major animation studios and different networks like MTV. She worked on the show Good Vibes, Cartoon Network, on shows like Adventure Time and Clarence. And she's now an art director at Disney TV or Disney TV Animation. And she's working on the show Big City Green. So without further ado, I am going to add our guest of the live. And hello, everybody who's tuning in live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Kassandra is joining. Hey!
Hey! Hi, Brandy!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. It's so good to see you.
Turn up the volume. Excuse my reach.
Gotcha.
There we go.
I'm really
Hey!
excited to talk to you. I haven't seen your face and talked to you in a long, long time.
I know. It's been a while.
Yeah, but you look exactly the same, so that's good for you.
Hey, yeah, right? Yeah, I can't believe it. So almost 10 years since, did we graduate in the same year?
I graduated. I did a 5-year track, so I
Okay.
came in the same time. I graduated 2011, but
Okay.
it's crazy to see what you've been able to do in a decade. Like, it's amazing.
It's looking back, it's been one thing after the other, but it's nuts, and I miss Detroit so much. I'm in LA now, but it's been, I think, almost 9 years since moving to LA.
Yeah.
But I keep hoping that we could get like a big studio to move to Detroit because I miss it.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. You guys would rock the scene here. All right, so I have a few questions for you from myself just to get the folks who are tuning in a general idea of who you are and your background. And then I'll open it up for folks who are tuning in. So if you're tuning in live now and you have questions about working in the animation industry or being an illustrator or just, about Kassandra's work, make sure you click the little question box at the bottom of your Instagram screen. It's a little square with a question mark in it. Type your questions in there because I'm going to ask her your questions live. So let's start off with where you are today, because you have, like I said, a crazy resume. You've done a lot of different things. Tell me a little bit more about what it means to be an art director in the animation industry, because I know for me that term is akin to advertising. I know what advertising art director does, but what does an art director do in the animation industry?
So they're different on every show, but mostly I manage a small team of background painters, color designers, like actual designers of the character art and things like that, background design, and then I oversee the whole, like an episode takes about 9 months to make, and I kind of oversee the whole process of like.
Wait, one episode takes 9 months to make?
Yes.
Okay.
It's birth. It's a child. It's bringing life into this earth. Yes. It's 9 months of we package it up. We make everything like perfect, sealed tight creatively, and then we do send it overseas to do the in-between art of the animation. And then we get it back, and that's where I once again step in and try to correct things that were lost in translation, or even just things that were our mistake, or changes, any kind of editing, all that stuff. I have a hand in to try and get our original intent, through as far as visually. I'm very much a visual. Someone else handles the jokes and the storytelling. That's kind of them, and then we try to tell story in our own way with design and color.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea, like, obviously it's not my industry, so I have no idea of all the inner workings that go into creating like 9 months for an episode is still blowing my
I
mind.
know.
You guys are working on multiple episodes at a time then, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we stagger them so that it's literally we're turning them in every 2 weeks. We have a new episode going out. So at the end of the 9 months, then you're getting like boom, boom, boom. Like here comes all the animation, and we get to see the black and white animation because it's all hand drawn with pencil, and then scanned in and traced again digitally. So we get to see that, and then it comes, yeah, months later it comes to us. I would say we're the end of the 9 months, so there's still a few months in there that we're working on it, and then we deliver it to the studio.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good to meet, and I'm sure there are students who are tuning in who are hearing this. It's good to hear that there's so many different facets that go into creating animated work. I know a lot of students are like, I want to work on characters, and that's all they think about, right? Could you speak to maybe some of the jobs that are less commonly known in the animation industry, specifically for illustrators, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I actually feel like I get that question the most when kids are coming out of college. And what's amazing about illustration is there's so many jobs you can do as an illustrator in animation. You kind of fine tune your craft as an illustrator because you're making something that's very collaborative and animated, but it's all skills that you learn as an illustrator. It's all fundamental painting, design, all of that. It's all resonates back into what you learn from like the masters of painting, and what you'll learn in painting class in school at CCS. But yes, there's jobs like from the very almost entry level, I want to say, but it's probably not the right word. There's color design, which is people who color anything that does move on the screen. So for Big City Greens, like Cricket has to be colored on his own. The Tilly has to be colored on her own. But then anything they interact with that moves, like a prop or an effect, also has to be colored completely on its own. So that's someone else. That's someone's job is to color, and then there's a background painter who paints anything that doesn't move, anything that just stays still. That's probably the most illustration job. And you're in charge of making sure you're keeping up with the storyboard and making sure that you're painting things that are supposed to be at night or daytime, sunset. And both those jobs, it's so important that as an illustrator, as a creator, you're also putting your own storytelling through with your art. Like it's easy to paint grass green, sun yellow. That stuff is important to know the iconic colors, but then what can you do to add to that? Even like I remember starting off, I painted a picture frame of I worked on a show called Clarence, and Clarence was in this like painting, and I thought, oh, this is a painting, or this is like a school photo, and I thought, oh, school photos have those cool laser backgrounds that you pay extra $7 to like be in front of. So I'm like, I gotta put that in there. So stuff like that, it's always helpful when you're also thinking as part of the storytelling team. And then additional jobs is someone has to design the backgrounds. It's all done black and white. You do the drawing, and then someone else colors it. And same with the character design. We do those black. That's someone's job to do them black and white. And sometimes they're based off the board, storyboard, and then you do your design on top of that. And again, there's a lot of exploration there, just creatively, and trying to figure out, like, you might be assigned to draw like a hamburger mascot, but what does that really mean? Like, is it gonna look clowny like McDonald's? Is it creepy? So yeah,
you get to use your creative vision to bring those things to life.
Yeah.
So you painted a picture of a lot of amazing opportunities for illustrators in the animation industry. So if a student, and I have my own answer for this question, but I want to get your perspective. If a student says, I want to work in the animation industry, I love to draw. I'm torn between illustration or animation. What advice would you give a student like that?
I think learn the pipeline. You know, animation's a big pipeline, and kind of hone into what you really love about animation, what you see yourself doing day to day.
Mm-hmm.
I just I really loved even at school, actually, even at CCS, during my final year of reviews, they would always say you have an eye for color. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize how much of a sign that was supposed to be, because in the end that's what I really like specialize in, even though now that I cover a little bit of everything, like it's color that got me here, like my
Mm-hmm.
sense of color and the skill that I learned. And then, yeah, so I think learning the pipeline, learn what, you know, maybe other artists that you really like, what are they doing for a day
Mm-hmm.
job? And also just career wise, just like life wise, kind of plan, like think about what your like what you want the background of your life to look like too, because
Mm-hmm.
there's different places that you can do different careers, and it's really important. I have very like little family in Michigan, so I was kind of like, I'll just go anywhere that'll take me, so that wasn't a big thing for me. But some of my peers actually ended up staying in Michigan, which is awesome, and they're succeeding, but they had to kind of tune to what they can do in Michigan
What the
versus
industry had here.
right, or if
Yeah.
they're going to go to Georgia or wherever they're going to go,
Mm-hmm.
they have to think about that.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's your career is, yes, about your skills. When we did an Ikigai presentation, it's about your skills and what you love to do, but it has to fit in the context of your life too, right? I had a
Yeah.
student yesterday on our online open house was like, I want to live on a boat. What major do I need? I'm like, I mean, at least you have some insights on what you want to do with your life, you know. But
Right.
that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So tell me this: what has been your favorite assignment to work on in your career thus far?
I think
'Cause you've
right
worked on a lot of cool
now,
stuff.
my favorite assignment has to be the show I'm working on right now, because it's close to home. It's my husband's show. My brother-in-law works on it, and I can't be more invested than this, I feel like. I definitely have a lot of like passion in seeing each episode go through, and I just love like the team that we built, the designers, um, and I I loved working on Clarence at Cartoon Network. That was really fun. I think what was fun about that was because like I was able to kind of sit back a little bit and let the show like play itself out, and I just taking notes and orders, like, you want this day, I'll paint it day. Whereas now I'm really like, I've got my hands on in every like pot
Yeah.
or whatever the saying is. It's a little exhausting, and I have to say, we're working from home right now, and I'm so blessed to be able to work safely from home, but at the same time, I hate it so much because I miss my coworkers. The one
Mm-hmm.
awesome thing about Big City Greens and a lot of shows is just the collaborative energy and just having like friends to like work with,
Mm-hmm.
and so now everything's on Zoom. It's like just the lack of. I mean, everyone's going through it. I miss
Yeah.
interacting with people.
Zoom fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
Clarence and Big City Green, I know they're like culture changing, right? You have a fandom. So it's powerful. And it's really cool. I don't know if folks who are tuning in know this. You mentioned your husband, Chris, but he's also a CCS alum. So it's a whole
Yeah.
CCS family endeavor.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting. I've had a few people who I've not a ton, but a few people who I've interviewed on these lives, and it's just amazing to see how many couples have come from, like, people are getting their degree and their spouse at the same time.
Oh my gosh, my year in particular had a lot of married couples. It just there was something in the water. I don't know. Love was in the air.
Yeah, I think there's something about, creative people. We have a lot of things in common. You
Hmm.
might fall in love with one, you know?
Yeah. I think that the the amount of time it takes to um learn art and the classes, even you're going to be, because you want to, you're going to be working late. So I think that to um, relate to someone else that's also like, I'm just going to spend 15 hours on a painting. Do you understand why I care about this? I think that's probably a good start to like meeting people.
Yeah, true. Very
Yeah.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so I have a couple more questions for me, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. Again, for those of you who are just joining us on the live, if you want to ask questions about illustration, animation, working on animated shows, being an art director in the animation industry, make sure you click that Q&A box at the bottom and add your question. All right, so this is the point of our CCS Alumni Live where we jump in an imaginary time machine and we go back to high school. And I want you to just tell me a little bit about yourself as a high school artist. Did you know that you wanted to be doing what you're doing today? Tell me what you were like in high school.
Yes, I definitely knew I wanted to be an artist, and I actually knew I wanted to go to CCS. Even I had lived in Michigan for up until my teenage years, and then my parents and I moved to North Carolina. But I had already been taking like extra classes at CCS, just like youngster classes. I don't remember what they were called. And they were so great. I loved the school so much, and I had felt way more at home in Michigan than in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So I had always thought, oh, it's going to be CCS. I'm going to be an artist. Like, I didn't have a ton of like interest in school at the time. I had a really hard time personally with grades. I had a few learning disabilities that had always made me feel like I'm just not good at classes and schools and grades. So anyways, my parents were very much like, well, let's go to school, like let's go to college. And I knew I wanted to be an artist. I gave CCS a portfolio that was just a ton of random drawings from, I loved anime very, very much. I still do. And I drew from what I saw, like, I think high school covered the, like color the value of an egg and the shadow and blah, blah, blah. So I showed them that.
Basics.
Yeah. Yes. I could draw like crazy. So I showed them all that just really roughly, like my sketchbooks, just a bunch of torn out pieces of paper of like other projects I had. But my high school actually didn't have a lot of art programs. They just had one class that was like a painting class / art history-ish. And then from there, I was just like on my own. So I like, just kept drawing for myself. And then as soon as I turned 18, I moved up to Detroit and got accepted into CCS. I actually did their portfolio program first, which was
the summer program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that solidified it for me. In fact, I am not a very emotional person, but I got teary-eyed during they have this like ceremony at the end where like parents can come look at everything, and I had my aunt come, and I was just like, I have to go here. Like, there's nothing, like, I can't imagine anything else for like what I do next. And I was also working as a manager at Tropical Smoothie, and I hated it. And I was just like, I can't do stuff where I'm just looking at the clock all day, like trying to get out of work all day, because it's like what you do every day. Like, it's the most time other than sleeping that you spend in one spot is your work. So I'm just like, I have to do something creative.
Mm-hmm. And
so
you
that's
did,
kind of where
and
I
you're
was.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know a lot of students, myself included, who had that story, who went to pre-college. It's called pre-college summer experience now, but when we went, it was probably called Camp Portfolio.
Yes.
And we're like, I love this place. My friends are here. I can't go anywhere else. Yeah. And you grow your portfolio in the process, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple more questions for me, and then I'm going to open it up to our audience. What is one thing you learned or gained during your time at CCS that really changed your life or changed how you work as an artist?
I can really say that a lot of my illustration teachers really changed my mind about art in general. Like, I feel like there's always this first year where you come in like, I know how to draw illustrations in a stylized way that you seen in anime, you've seen on, you know, birthday cards. You're like, I can mimic this art, you know? And so I'm good, right? And I think that it was thanks to the persistence of like my teachers in the illustration department. I think Eric Olson is still there. He was a little scary at first. He's kind of like really intense about painting, but like that got me into it. And he also taught me how to paint from like a very limited palette. And he just had us paint from life. Like every class, like painting class was like a 2-hour like painting session, like paint this in 2 hours, paint this in 3 hours, just like live models, and kind of breaking down a little bit of that like first ego of like, I know how to draw anime, I'm good, and like I can copy this or whatever, and then relearning how to draw from life. And like Pat Underdown and Dave Chow, and they're just teachers in illustration department that lent themselves so much, and that definitely changed, you know, everything for me as far as like just realizing, okay, I have a lot to learn about just drawing from life, drawing a lot more than I was even drawing, like filling up sketchbooks, and really just not trying to make every drawing complete or finished or perfect. It's like, it's about the process of learning and understanding how to draw things. And then I remember having this aha moment where honestly I had stopped drawing in any kind of style for a little while, and I went to a draw night with a bunch of students, and I was like just applying a style to what I've learned about drawing from life, and it just all kind of clicked and made way more sense. And I understood more about how to draw on purpose, so that then I could break the rules of what I learned.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that was huge. And then meeting my peers was everything. My roommate, she like taught me a lot about just work ethic and working diligently. I mean, she would be in the next room painting, and she's still way better at that than me, just time management. And just like, I keep in touch with so many people from my class, and it's still like so helpful to check in with all of them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, amazing connections and network come from the community at this school, you know. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's really powerful what you said about like learning those rules from, you know, Pat and Dave and the other teachers, like learning how to work from observation, learning those rules essentially gave you the freedom to break them in a way that's purposeful, right? Like,
right.
I like what you said about making your art on purpose. And you have such a beautiful, unique style. Like I shared a lot of your work on my feed just leading up to our conversation today, and every piece is like, this all is obviously from the same artist, even though they may be different characters or from different shows or, you know, from your own imagination. It's clear that your voice comes through in your work. And I know I emphasize that for a lot of students who are, even though, you know, in high school, it may be hard to figure out what that is, to start to ask yourself, you know, what could be a part of my unique style, or how can I start to develop this? Like, yes, it's good to, you know, have your fun and draw your fan art, but also like, where is your voice in that? How do we know it's coming from you? And you're a great example of what that looks like.
Totally. And fan art in particular too, it's great if that's something that you find like easy to like draw a lot of, but and I always encourage it. Sometimes it's a hot issue of like, should artists do fan art? It's kind of like, well, that's just the creative energy you have at the time. Do it. It's better than not drawing. But yeah, CCS is great for like, okay, but let's focus on the like how to actually draw and make sure you can do everything that when you go to your job, that you're not like, I don't know how to draw hands. Can we just put hands in pockets, you know, in the show? It's like, no, you can't. You can't do that. But and then I also Detroit was a huge like thing for me, like or just not just inspiration, but it changed me in new, like small nuances that I couldn't even explain. But I'm so proud of being from not just the Midwest, but Detroit in particular, because that's definitely my edge coming out here. And I feel like if you're thinking about moving to LA for animation, or maybe it's also in Atlanta and New York, I think sometimes you feel like, oh no, I'm not from the schools here. But I honestly, at first I was like, okay, how do I get my foot in the door? Because everyone knows each other. But after I did, I'm like, I have such a different perspective than everyone in LA. And I even, now that I've lived in LA, I'm watching movies or TV shows that are made in LA, and I'm like, where is more perspective than this LA perspective, like, and so I realized, I'm like, oh, there'd be more shows that would benefit off of having maybe a cast or a team or shot not in LA, because all of the story is kind of motivated by LA. But yeah, there's definitely like moments from being at CCS that I'm like, I got so much like a cool backdrop experience in Detroit, and I actually feel like even LA tries to mimic it in a way, and it just comes out very like surfacey and in a way,
like inauthentic.
Yeah. So I took like screen printing classes and like just really cool experiences. Even like the extra classes, like I did silversmithing, that was so cool. And yeah, with I got to see like local business owners though that would come talk to CCS, and then I get to see their business. So to see it applied and stuff like that, it was really cool.
You sound like you got a lot of awesome things out of your experiences.
Yeah. No, I guess I cover that only because I'm like, I don't think I'd want to go to school. It's in LA looking back now.
That's good. That's good perspective, because I know the last question I always ask is, what's one thing, one piece of advice that you would give your 18-year-old self? Like, if you could, now that you know all that you know about your industry and your path, what advice would you give yourself in high school?
Oof. I think I would just tell myself not to be so hard on myself. And, high school was really hard for me, but it was meant to be that way. I left that, all behind, the hard times of high school. And there's just stuff that didn't click with me for high school. And it was all kind of like, okay, that's okay though. Like, that's not where you're supposed to, peak. So, so, go on. College was so much more like just meeting new people, meeting people with the same interests as you. It was just game changer.
Yeah.
Aww.
That's wonderful. Great advice.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I see that folks have shared some questions, so I'm going to open up our Q&A box. And the first question is from Aku Bunny. What's the best way to build a portfolio as an illustrator?
So I think the best way to build a portfolio is look at artists that you really like look at their portfolio and mimic it if you want. I mean, really simple portfolios are the best. If they're for like job hunting, that's what, you're gonna have someone that's kind of like skeptical about you, and they're not gonna like, they might have like 100 portfolios to look at. So simple portfolio to look at, and really well organized as far as like what is the position that you're looking for. If you're trying to be an illustrator, display illustrations, like complete illustrations, as a category, so that then I can, flip through, or someone can flip through really easily and see what your goal is. And organizing things. So I know it's really hard to do, but try to limit to your favorite and best work that represents you, so that even though you might have this one drawing that you see the flaws, you're not excited about it, but maybe you had this one part of it you really liked, I would say just get rid of it, or maybe put it in a category that's like extra, like I have like a category that's illustrations. So you want to see my illustrations, and I have like maybe 13 pieces that I'm like, that's what you'll get from me. That's my experience. And then I do have an extra category that if somebody just really wanted to keep looking, like they can look through that, but it's not the main entree. And you know, things like social media is great for not, you know, portfolio pieces, but everything else too, like portfolio pieces and everything else. So they can be like just where you throw things at the wall. And then your portfolio should just be kept to what you're really, really proud of and just
That's
limited
good,
and
guys.
really clear. And as far as building it, yeah, I recommend looking at what artists you really like who have the jobs that you like. Check out what softwares they're using. You know, my Eric Olson would say that that you need to learn how to paint and draw first. Those are the fundamentals, and software, you know, you can always apply those skills too. So, but to know what software is coming up for your future, potential future job, it would be a good thing. And if you can, you know, practice in those softwares, you know.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I really like what you mentioned about like throwing things at the wall on social media, but putting your best work. Because I know I have students who will send like 50 pieces. I'm like, I can't look through all,
Right.
you know, unless we're going to spend hours together. But if someone sends me, you know, their portfolio and their Instagram link, if I want to go see more, it's great because I can see the diversity that they have as an artist, that they explore, things like that. But it doesn't, I know from a high school perspective, it doesn't impact their scholarship negatively, you know?
Yeah.
So that's great advice.
And
but
limiting
specifically
it
for a
to,
career, you know, that's also great advice because people want to know who they're working with, and looking at a social media feed gives more insight into who you are as a person.
for sure. Yeah. And yeah, just eliminating anything that you've outgrown, which happens so fast. You outgrow your art, and it's a good thing. It's great that in a month you might look back at something and go, I know that's not good. But if you can move on from that piece, if it doesn't spark joy anymore, put it away and just keep your portfolio to what you really, really are proud of. Because honestly, even as an art director, sometimes I'll see like a wonky piece that is really outdated from the others. But I think part of me is wondering, do you think this is a good piece compared to the rest? So then there's this doubt of like, do you see how this is kind of wonky compared to these other 10 illustrations? Not that that would stop me from inquiring more, but it's just something to keep in mind, you know?
Yeah, that can kind of mess with your confidence about what you're sharing. Yeah. All right, we have another question from Joyous Jet. Can illustration majors go into game design, or I guess can they become game designers? Can they go into the game industry?
Yeah, yes, and question mark. Look into the software they use. You might have to learn like Maya or something like that. Things like visual development in video games is illustration, but it does play a hand in animation, where you're going to need to learn like turnarounds, stuff like that. And it's also very, very, very hard industry to get into, and in particular for illustration, it's like such a small amount of people do that job that just be aware you'll need have a few tools in your toolbox, as far as like you could do game designer, but what part of game designing?
Right.
I didn't plan on working in animation, but illustration is it covers such a wide variety of jobs that it's something I kind of found my way into. But yeah, for game designing, definitely look at the software that you'll have to learn. And that's definitely something you'll have to learn while in college. I think because it's definitely a hard software to learn on your own. I don't know what's the current software, but at the time, one of my friends was into game designing, and he was learning Maya, and now he's working in games. But on the other side, I have a friend who was really interested in doing game design. Amazing, amazing art. Hasn't quite made it yet, but he does have a great job in animation, so I'm just not sure if he's, you know, made the jump yet. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is be open to many jobs along the way to your dream job.
Well, and one thing too, I know a lot of students, similar to animation, when it comes to game design, they say like video game designer, but there is a spectrum of, like you said, visual development. There's concept design. There's user interface and user experience. There's there's so many levels of designing a video game. And you may find that illustration is the best path, like if you want to do visual development, but if you're interested in the concept art, you may want to go into concept design. If you're interested in, you know, the 3D modeling of those characters or the environments, you may want to go into the video game design major. So it's a good idea to do what Kassandra mentioned as far as like, you know, being open to a lot of careers, but also doing your research into the different types of careers, because there are a lot of things that typically fall under those umbrellas for those industries.
Right. And, you know, sometimes if you really like, you know, want that crazy dream job, because again, like visual development in video game is what usually people gravitate towards, or even in animation, visual development. In feature, like you want to draw the princesses from Frozen, like those jobs are like, there's like 3 or 4 people for feature that do that job. And I think everyone should reach for the stars, go for it. But know there's jobs underneath that you can kind of climb up the ladder, and it's not really ladder climbing in a corporate way, just in an experience way and just a talking way. Like you get to know other people, and you'll your career kind of shifts on its own. Like you just kind of naturally navigate it and figure out where you really, really like want to be. But yeah, that's definitely the top prize job that, you know, it's a rarity.
So I'm just loving this conversation. I feel like the students are going to take so much away from this. I have one more question for you, and then we are going to end. What do you see for yourself in the future? What is your next step? What are you hoping to be doing 5 or 10 years from now?
I don't know. I feel like these past 10 years I've been working like pretty quickly, like, or nonstop, I should say. I think after my first animation job, I was like super scared that like, what if I don't get the next job? That, you know, and then it happened. Animation's great to get into right now, by the way. But I'm starting to finally feel like I can kind of rest a little bit. So I'm you know, 33. So I'm like, ooh, maybe I'm like ready to have more like just fun, like relaxed time, you know? Career wise, like I hope I'm an art director in the future. Working from home, and just like the crazy world that we're in right now is hard to even imagine what the future is.
That's true.
Yes. But like, I feel like I see a glimmer of hope in the future, and I hope I'm an art director in the future. I hope that I'm working on Big City Greens for a while. We are working at the end of season 2, and if season 3 goes through, then we'll be working on season 3. And that, as I said, it takes a million years for an episode to be made, so that'll be a while. I could also see myself taking a step back and maybe doing a background painting job. I love background painting. It's such a rewarding job, and it's also just like art directing. So like you're all over the place, working on so many different episodes at one time. I almost miss just working on like paintings. So like you can be a little bit more sacred with your paintings. You're just like, oh, let's paint a happy little tree over here, like Bob Ross, you know, like, yeah, so I'm not sure. I guess I'll see where the water kind of takes me. I've been that's kind of been my whole like 10 years. I started in toy design. I went into comics, illustration. I tried illustration, like children's book and stuff. Didn't love working from home, so discovered that. Didn't love like working via email. I always read my emails like really angrily, so I'm like, why are they so mad at me? It's just how I read emails. trying to work on that. But I tried like logo design, but wasn't that great at that. And then I found myself into actually I was in comics for a while, and I really loved comics. I'd love to do that again. Just because it's so like creator driven and like
I have two of your you guys' Adventure Time comics.
Oh,
I love
yes. Yeah, and that was fun. Like I made that at Boom Studios, and that studio, Boom Studios, is so fun to work with. And working in a smaller studio would be fun too. Like Disney's huge. It's too big sometimes. And Big City Greens is doing really, really well. So that's exciting. So I guess I'm just going to see where Big City Greens goes as far as like what could next season bring? So yeah, I guess in the future, continue being an art director is what I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that will come to fruition because you're an amazing talent and a beautiful person.
Thank you.
And so I only see the best for you in the future. So is there somewhere where people can people follow you here on Instagram, or is there a website that we should plug so people can check out more of your work?
Instagram, I'm somewhat good at. You can always follow me on Instagram. I'm available for questions. And Twitter, same as my Instagram. I'm on there a lot. I'm probably more active on Twitter as far as posting. And then I think my portfolio is in every link if you want to see an example of a portfolio from a 33-year-old lady.
From an amazing illustrator who's very talented.
I think that's it. I mean, I have like all the social medias, but I think Twitter and Instagram are my most active.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, be sure if you want to see more of her work, follow her it's at Kassandra Heller, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
On Instagram and Twitter. I want to thank you so much for your time and your wonderful insights today. I know I've been inspired and I've learned a lot about the animation industry and just the various things that illustrators get to do in their career. So I'm very grateful for your time today. And I'll be sharing this live on my IGTV. So if you came in and you didn't get a chance to finish, or you're just coming in at the end, don't worry, you'll be able to watch the whole conversation. Be sure to tune in for the next CCS Alumni Live. Thank you so much, Kassandra, for your time.
Thanks, Brandy. It was good to see you again.
It was great to see you. It was great catching up with you. Bye, everyone.